תל אביב 360, ערוץ הפודקאסטים של אוניברסיטת תל אביב.
Hi, a quick heads up. The following episode contains mild use of strong language and some graphic descriptions that may not be suitable for all listeners, so listener discretion is advised. מאזינות ומאזינים, שימו לב, הפרק הבא כולל מעט שפה בוטה ותיאורים גרפיים שעשויים לא להתאים לכל המאזינים, אז נא להפעיל שיקול דעת לפני שנכנסים לפרק הזה.
קומיקאים בקמפוס, תוכניתו של דוקטור אמיר טל.
Okay, thank you. Hi, welcome to another episode of Comedians on Campus. Today we have another conversation in English, and the first one which is remote. Our guest is overseas in faraway New York, so he's not strictly on campus, but we're keeping the name. We have us today Gus Tate, rising star in stand-up from the New York scene. He has his first special on YouTube, Top Gus, which is amazing and already has over 100,000 views, 180,000 views, and hailed by all as the real deal.
By all. All hail me.
Exactly.
No, thanks. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Thank you. Thanks very much for being here. And it's not very, but it's early in the morning here for you, so especially appreciated.
Yeah, no problem.
So Gus, if your work reached me, you know you've made it big. Not because of yeah. Do you know?
No, I saw you had Modi on.
Yeah,
he's huge.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
A huge step down for you, but I'll try to fill his shoes.
Do you know him personally?
No, I haven't met him, but he's quite famous.
Yeah. He was gracious enough. He was visiting here at the university.
Great.
Yeah, so he had him physically. You're our first remote conversation.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So I'm even more important than Modi.
You are,
because wow, that's great. You had to get me on Zoom.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm honored. I'll tell him if I meet him.
Yeah. Thanks. Do you know of fan bases abroad, like foreign places?
Do I have fan bases abroad?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. No. I started not in America. I started in Beijing, but I think everybody that would know me there is probably gone or doesn't remember me. So, yeah, no, just here. Okay.
Well, you don't know, apparently.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I didn't know anyone was listening in Tel Aviv. So.
Yeah, we were.
There you go.
And there's a tale I thought I'd share of it's pretty famous here in Israel, but Radiohead was discovered in Israel. There was a famous Israeli radio DJ, played Creep, loved Creep, and played it a lot on his own show. And then a local fan base started, and their first international gigs were in Tel Aviv.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and even Johnny Greenwood.
There you go.
Yeah, so this could be it, you know.
Wow, no pressure. Right.
No pressure. No, bad news is that DJ was much bigger than we are, so we'll bootstrap each other. Okay, so thanks. What we did, I described it a bit, but I'll describe it again for our listeners also. What this show is about is we're cognitive neuroscientists, meaning we study the psychological aspect of neuroscience. We study how psychological phenomena like learning, memory, consciousness, attention, how it's realized in the brain. So the hardware and the software together. And we're here at Tel Aviv University in the psychology building. And two of us, myself and Shai, a PhD student here, were very interested in humor specifically. It's not exactly related to the lab we're in, but it's something we like as private consumers and also find it scientifically fascinating. It's this phenomenon, which we know is international across all times, all races, all places, and also outside of humans. We know many mammals have humor in some form as well. But it's not very well understood. And if I'd had to explain humor to an alien, it would be hard. I can
it would be.
I can explain empathy, right? You see something happen to someone, and then you imagine yourself in in that situation and you feel what you would feel. So you can feel sadness or whatever. But for some reason, some things you can say to me will surprise me in a particular way that would cause like this eruption in me, which would like involuntary, esophagus, all kinds of physiological phenomenon, and it's prevalent everywhere. Like, and it's hard to explain.
Do you know Pete Holmes's thing about how laughter is the only like involuntary response to a performance? Like magicians don't perform and then people watch it and go magic. It's the only thing that elicits like an instant involuntary response from like a group of people.
Yeah, it's true. And that has to do like with how difficult it is. There's something like magical about it. The biggest pushback we've been getting from this like interview with comedians and trying to dig into it is people not wanting to demystify it. Like, there's this feeling it's something magical, more than magic, ironically. It's more magical, and something happens, and comedians are in the tough spot of having to produce that over and over again, like having to produce something spontaneous. Like you can't do a show of your greatest hits. It has to be fresh.
Well, you sort of can. That's sort of what an album is. What you mean, like greatest hits, like jokes that work the best?
Yeah, like Seinfeld can't go on tour now with a joke from like jokes from the 90s, like Bob Dylan can.
Right. The thing is, he sort of does. I mean, it's not like that old. Like he doesn't do jokes from the beginning of his career. But like I remember when I saw Seinfeld at the Beacon here in New York, there were jokes that I was like, oh, I remember that from like at least 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he still says this or believes this, but there's a famous quote where he says, I don't want to see your new hour. I want to see your best hour.
Right.
But I actually don't. I want to see your new hour. I mean, if I'm like a fan of your comedy, I've seen all this stuff. I don't need to like hear the greatest hits. So, to answer your question, no, most comedians are not trying to do the greatest hits when they do a new performance, but some do.
Yeah.
And some fans want to see it, honestly.
They do? They feel,
I think so, yeah. But maybe not like the comedy nerd fans.
I think like as a music nerd as well, I would happily go to a concert of, Bob Dylan and have him like, how does it feel? And point the microphone at me and I'll sing together. But I would never watch Seinfeld I would never want Seinfeld to say, what do, and then like a rabbi and a priest have in common. I wouldn't want to give the punchline myself. Like we had a comedian say that, like you can't do that as a comedian. Even Seinfeld, I guess, when he tells his own jokes, he has to make it seem somewhat spontaneous and like organic. Yeah, I agree. Although I do think, I've thought for a while that there should be cover comedy. You know how there's like like karaoke
jazz. Or like, I think there should be some context where it's allowed to just do another person's jokes. I guess this is different than greatest hits, but like, you like me get up and do like a Seinfeld set and everyone who hasn't heard his jokes would be like, oh yeah, that's fine. But it's all just agreed, like this is not me, copyright, whatever. But yeah, it doesn't really exist in mainstream comedy.
That's a great idea. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, me too.
That's awesome. Like, you can do that with folk jokes, like with aristocrats and stuff, but not like with other people's materials. Right. We call those street jokes. Yeah. Like joke jokes. Yeah. Yeah. So what we do on this show, what we try to do is make scientists, us, not any scientist, meet comedians and try to pick their brains about like insights you might have about like what humor is, because thinkers have been dealing with this for like thousands of years, since ancient Greece, and theories are kind of short of explaining exactly what happens. It's still magical. It's still a mystery. Right. So we don't think comedians have the answer, but maybe through this interaction we can get some insight and like try to, make you guys, At the very least, comedians love talking about it, as if they know what they're talking about. So you can get somewhere. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Like many of them say, I don't want to touch that. Many of them don't want to. No, I think
I think it's okay. I mean, especially on a academic podcast
Yeah.
at a university, it's probably fine. We're not trying to be funny this entire podcast.
No.
But also, I think in Jimmy Carr's book, he says you can go like humor blind if you talk about humor for too long. Like you can sort of like lose sight of like what makes something funny by talking about it too much. But he says in the book, like, it's okay. It goes away. Like, just take a break. Your sense of humor will return. There's not like a danger of like over-explain. You're not going to permanently damage your humor brain.
Your humor
So,
brain. Yeah.
yeah, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I had a faculty here say I don't want to touch that, like, and you know I'll feel terrible if because of the podcast nothing is ever funny anymore. Like I ruin humor for everyone.
Right.
That'll be a hard burden to live with.
You get canceled.
Yeah, more. So I'll ask you the basic question we start with everyone. Do you have generally thoughts about that? Do you think about like what humor is and what you do?
Yeah. I mean, as a disclaimer, it doesn't help me like create jokes to think about it, but I do think there's like certain things that all jokes share, or all funny jokes share. I mean, the best thing that I found is like, do you know like the benign violation theory?
Well, yeah, I do.
Yeah. That's not you, is it? I can't remember who did it. Okay. Yeah, just that like something's funny if it's both a violation and benign. So like tickling is like, oh no, you're attacking me, but it's fine. Or like roast jokes are funny because they're a benign violation. Like, hey, that guy's being insulted. Oh, but he's laughing. It's fine. But I don't think that explains all jokes. I mean, I think surprise has to be part of it, but it's not everything. Like, I think there's like relief is part of it. Like if there's some sort of internal tension that you've had with your own emotions, or like some sort of like hypocrisy or like cognitive dissonance that you've been like, oh, I've been pretending to be this, but actually I believe this. And then someone says the inside part and you go, no, you're right. I do. That is me. Recognition is part of it. Like, you know, sometimes something's funny because it's just a very specific slice of life that you didn't realize that other people also experience. And you laugh because you recognize it. Yeah, it's funny because it's true. People say that a lot.
Yeah.
But none of those things are like sufficient conditions, I think. It's some magical combination of all of them.
Right.
But I'd love to hear your theory, your pet theory.
Amazing. So like you gave the best review I've heard in a while for theories.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there's like broadly speaking, like there's 3 families of theories people usually refer to. So there's, as you said, there's the relief theory. That's like Freud and people in his genre say like what laughter is or what humor is when you release something that was like built up tension. So either you had built up tension from like the premise or from like the situation, then someone says something that is benign, that is not like threatening, or rather just takes it upon himself to say something taboo, and then you get a relief of stress, and you can exert that through laughter. And even if you had like energy you would usually use to inhibit yourself, you get like some kind of release from that. And and there are theories of benign violation, which just like a juxtaposition of 2 things which usually don't go together, and they threaten somehow your concept of the world, and then that threat has to be a little bit threatening to touch you. If it's not threatening at all, it won't be funny, but it also has to be like not threatening, not too threatening, so to be benign. So like the classic example, if someone falls and slips on the banana, that's funny. If he breaks his hand, it's not that funny. If it happened 1,000 years ago, maybe it's funny again. So it has to be like the sweet spot. 1,000 years probably won't be funny.
Yeah. Is it Mel Brooks that said, tragedy is where I cut my finger and comedy is where you fall into an open sewer and die.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Exactly. Which is, the modern.
But yeah, that's true too.
Yeah. And then there's one more theory, which is the classic one of superiority, of like it's always about it's always laughing at something or someone, and that something or someone can be you, can be an older version of yourself or even yourself now. But there's always a butt of a joke. That's like classic Christian, ancient Greece thinking of like humor is something bad. It's like
interesting.
It's a bit aggressive.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think this is maybe just my own like personal axe to grind with comedy, is that I think there's always a line that a joke crosses. Like there's a lot of talk about like, oh, did he cross the line? You know, like there's like every couple of years there's a New York Times article like, oh, like this is funny, but like did he go too far? And there's no, that, I don't know, it just always annoys me because there's, every joke goes too far in some respect. Otherwise it wouldn't be funny at all.
Yeah.
Like there's so-called, I mean, there's clean comedians that don't say curse words or talk about sex or whatever, but they're crossing some taboo. It just happens to be a taboo that corporate America or wherever has agreed is fine. Like when you know, Jerry Seinfeld talks about Pop-Tarts or something, it seems pretty benign.
Yeah.
It's clean. He's not saying any dirty words, but he's talking about Pop-Tarts in a way that the Pop-Tarts brand would not approve of. And he's crossing that line. Or like when Jim Gaffigan talks about Hot Pockets. He's, you're not supposed to talk about Hot Pockets that way. I mean, we all do it, but like in their advertising, they would never say that. And that's what's fun. Or like Nate Bargatze talking about his wife or something like, oh, you're not supposed to talk about your spouse like that or church like that or whatever. Like everybody crosses a line. It's just, some people, yeah. Like when people get mad about it, it's because it's like it's just a line that they personally don't want to cross, or it just wasn't funny. I think that's the real answer. Like when people are like, "Oh no, he went too far," it's like, no, you just didn't think it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I agree. I sort of agree with that. There's always a butt of the joke, or there's always a little bit of a violation in it. It can't be all violation, or it's not funny.
Yeah. And so you think there isn't any joke that no one would get angry at? You think every joke, there's someone out there who would be mad at it?
Yeah, actually, I do. I mean, you can make that number vanishingly small.
Yeah.
Like, you can find like a 90-year-old woman somewhere that wouldn't think that it was funny. But the goal is that most of the people in the room will be on the right side of it.
Yeah.
But I think everybody in the room is imagining somebody that wouldn't be okay with it, whether they realize it or not. Like, oh no, my rabbi wouldn't like it if I laughed at this or whatever. Even if the rabbi would actually think it's funny, that's still sort of what you're thinking subconsciously. I was about to say pastor, and then I remembered I was talking to somebody in Tel Aviv, so I said rabbi.
Yeah, know your crowd.
Yeah, I localized my joke. But I mean, I think everything that you just said is probably true.
Yeah.
Is there one that you personally follow?
Yeah. So my favorite. So these are all. I wish I would like. It's true. It's like Schopenhauer and Aristo. So it's not. It's not mine, but mine is like the closest one is by Daniel Dennett. If you know him, actually Matthew Hurley.
I've heard of him.
Yeah,
I've never read his stuff, but I've heard of him.
He's like he passed away this year. He was a modern day philosopher of cognition, and he had a theory. They had a theory according to which humor is debugging in the brain. It's and you were a computer scientist, right? In training.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I was in undergrad.
Yeah. That's good enough. So that's what I did. So for like. Imagine like humor looking for places where your logic made a fault, took a wrong turn. And then their theory is in humor, you always point to something where your thinking went astray. You made some kind of implicit assumption you shouldn't have or something like that. And then this is evolutionarily, this has developed to encourage you instead of like being, discouraged by finding a mistake you did. Evolution gave us a reward for that, and then I would like incentivize you to debug your model of the world. But then
That's really good.
Yeah, it's really nice, and it explains a lot. I think they're close. I think they're closest. My theory is that it's learning, that it's not only debugging. It's not like only finding mistake you did, but actually learning something new. So like imagine if you think of all your knowledge of the world as a network of ideas and concepts and memories, and then you find a connection that didn't exist before. So for instance, people with children are like ghosts. In the sense that they both did this is a joke of yours, which I love. They both did an irreversible, they went through an irreversible act. And so this is a connection I didn't have before. And if I laugh at it, if it's funny, I'm admitting, I didn't mean to admit it, but inadvertently I'm admitting there's something to that. It's true. There is a useful connection here. It's not something, outlandish completely. Like, I can't say that it's completely untrue if I laugh about it. That's why you also get, I think, differences in people will laugh according to what they agree with in terms of political stance and stuff like that.
Right.
So learning is an act of humor is an act of learning, but it's learning within your own information. It's not learning new information. You never say I didn't know that. It's learning within your information. So you say, I didn't think of that. Like you could have thought of that. You could have made that connection yourself, but you didn't. You needed the comedian. Yeah.
It's using information that you've already gathered.
Exactly.
Putting it together.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's right. Because I always, a common mistake I think that younger comics make is putting new information in the punchlines. I was doing this, and then all of a sudden this happened, and they wait for a laugh, and it's like, the punchline should never be new information. It should be information that you already had, but it's just a little new perspective on it that makes you go, oh, right, because this. But the actual, you're not actually learning new information. Per se.
That's something that you thought of, that came to mind?
You mean, do I have an example?
No. It's something you noticed. For sure. I'm just happy it's something. Yeah.
No, all the time. I mean, the classic example is so I was talking to this lady and she said, you do this. And I go, oh, mom. Or it's oh, he was talking to his mom the whole time.
Yeah.
And that does get a little bit of a laugh, but that's not a real joke. It's it's a plot twist. Anyway. You get what I'm saying, but I agree with that. It's a good theory.
Thanks. So I'm trying to test it against comedians and jokes, and I'll try to write it down. And if I do, this is my promise to. If I do have a paper about it, I'm going to acknowledge all the comedians I've spoken with.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll use that as a credit.
Exactly.
When they bring me on stage. You
Sorry?
might know him from Dr. Emil Tall's, seminal paper.
Exactly. There's better chance for the other way around. You might know him for speaking with Gus, but we'll see. First one to get there.
I don't think so.
First one to get there will help the other.
That's funny. I was going to say, when you were talking about Dennett's theory about debugging, I've sometimes thought that a good comedy show is like a massage, because you're you're finding tension in your body that you didn't know was there. Or sometimes you did know it was there, but I think it's more fun when you didn't know it was there. You should come out of a comedy show, a good comedy show, feeling like you just had a massage. Somebody found the parts in your mind that were knotted that you didn't even realize, and then you're oh, okay, it's fine. But debugging is a good metaphor too.
No, that's a great metaphor. Do you feel that way?
Yeah.
After leaving a comedy show, you feel, they touched on topics.
Yeah.
Yeah? I
mean, it's pretty rare that I go to a comedy show as an audience member and have such a good time that I feel like that. But when I see somebody Louis C.K., he's my favorite.
Yeah.
And his jokes are so philosophical that I do feel like that afterwards. I'm like, oh yeah, I never thought about that, and I never thought about that, but it is true, and like I do that, and blah 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 blah. Yeah, that's how I feel. And I think people do feel like that, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great metaphor. Our previous guest, Budbul, he's like an Israeli comedian online. He said like a good joke is like scratching the right place, like it's finding a scratch. Yeah, which is pretty similar.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it works whether or not you realize that it was there. Like sometimes people go in wanting to hear a certain kind of thing. Like they've got their own little axe to grind. They've talked about it before with their friends, and then they go, oh yeah, this guy thinks that too. But the best is when you didn't even realize that you thought that.
Yeah.
And then everyone realizes it together as an audience. And yeah, I think that's the most fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard to do. I mean, it's hard to think of stuff that are like that.
Yeah. It seems impossible. I don't know how you guys do that. Yeah. We thought of like speaking to you specifically about like an aspect, like a streak I find you have in your humor, which like we didn't have anyone thus far like to talk. You're our 10th episode.
Oh, wow.
10th guest, yeah.
Double digits.
Yeah, exactly. It's exponential. I thought with you to talk about like a self-deprecating humor. You have a certain streak of that in your comedy, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Which is like especially interesting considering like that superiority thing we talked about before, because it's not clear. Like here, the superiority is like the comedian is laughing about himself in a way, and like the audience enjoys that. Whereas they also enjoy it when the comedian laughs at them, right? Like there's both. So like, first of all, do you have like that kind of, do you know like self-deprecating is like a tool or anything or?
Yeah. I mean, I always think a self-deprecating joke is worth more in my act than a not self-deprecating one, because it does two things. I mean, it's funny, but it also like endears the audience to me, so they listen more. It's better to do up top. If I'm just sort of like complaining about various people in society, like it gets older faster.
Yeah.
I sort of start to seem crotchety, or like I'm just complaining. So I try to have as much self-deprecating stuff. But I think the best is also when it's you think that I'm not self-deprecating, and then I am like you think that I'm complaining about another group, but then it turns out that I'm actually including myself. I don't really have an example of that, but other people do it too. Or the opposite, where you think I'm doing a self-deprecating joke, but actually it turns out that I'm not. Can I curse on this podcast? Is this a clean podcast? Yeah. Just I don't know if I did it on the thing, but what was it? Oh, I think I said like, this is way outdated now, but I used to say that I've never wanted to transition into a woman, but I think if I did, it would be affordable. I think they would have like a pretty easy time with this. You know, I would just go in and they'd be like, yeah, I mean, you're halfway there. All we got to do is chop off that huge cock and we'll be good. So like, I mean, aside from it's just funny to say that I have a huge cock, I think there's something inherently funny in that. But it's funny because you think I'm just self-deprecating, that I look like a lady or something. But nope, I got a huge cock. So there. But both of those work. Like you can, I don't have an example of the opposite. But I think self-deprecation is a pretty important part of comedy.
Interesting. You think it makes audience feels like the audience feels less at risk, I guess, right? They feel like more.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe psychologically, it's like, no, I'm not coming after you. It's me.
Yeah.
But also, they feel like, oh yeah, I do that too, or it like makes it okay to laugh at, because it's like, no, I'll volunteer to be the butt of this.
Yeah.
Like I'm really talking about this thing that we all do, but you can laugh at it through me. It's okay.
Yeah. It seemed to us many times like to be us deprecating, not as much as like self-deprecating. Like you're volunteering, you're taking it on yourself, but actually we're laughing at all of us who like empathize.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think you can be You can also talk about other groups, but as long as I think you got to like sort of like you know what Sebastian Maniscalco does, where he talks about like certain. Do you know him?
I know the name. Like I definitely know
He's
him.
like
Okay.
he's like Modi for Italians. He's
Okay.
like or like Italian Americans. He's just but part of his thing is he talks about like the certain kind of annoying people that you find around town, like at the gym or like at the supermarket, and he does impressions of them. And I wouldn't call that self-deprecating because he's talking about other people, but it's just so it's almost like a loving portrayal. Like, oh yeah, maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's like it can't just be mean. It can't just be like you complaining about them. There has to sort of be this like the impression has to be so good that it's like, wow, he really understands this deeply, or he like cares about this. He's not just ranting. A lot of comedy sort of devolves into ranting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, do you know Shane Gillis?
Yeah. Love him.
Yeah, I think he's got like one of the best Trump impressions ever. Like and it was like just when everyone was tired of Trump impressions, he came out with the best one. And I mean that is interesting in itself. But I think what makes his Trump impression so good is that it's like a little bit sympathetic. It's like he's not like a Trump guy, but it's when other people do Trump, it's kind of in a sneering. You know, I mean, I think he's a detestable guy. It's totally understandable why you would do that, but it's not funny. It's funny when Shane does it because he's like he kind of humanizes him in a way, and like it's like, hey, maybe we're all a little bit like this sometimes. Yeah, and I think when Sebastian Maniscalco does that about the people, he's not just like, fuck these people. He's like, don't we all do that a little bit though?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe there's a little bit of self-deprecation even in regular deprecation if it's funny.
Yeah. So it's deprecating everyone anyway, whether it's you or people you're imitating.
Yeah, I think so.
The joke comes from like people empathizing. Yeah. For Shane, he's like he performs to like East Coast, right, or liberal audiences, but he has some of like some Republican in him. Like that's part of his part of his persona. Right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He said, I think in his most recent special, like it's in me. Like I can feel it coming out.
Yeah.
Like it's like a early onset disease.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He says I'm an early onset Republican.
Not Republican yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he does it. I mean, when he performs in red areas, he can do liberal stuff, and it works too. Like, and I think Bill Burr does that too.
Really?
Like like he's talked about, when I'm in Texas, I talk about gun control, and when I'm in New York, I talk about guns, and it's like just the contrast is maybe important.
Yeah, to be an outsider.
Yeah, I think that's maybe this isn't the topic, but I think what a lot of people get wrong about stuff like that is they think that Bill Burr is just like ranting about stuff, or like they think he's like he'll talk about like, oh yeah, I want to punch my wife or something. I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember what he said, but and a lot of amateur comedians see that and they're like, oh, I want to punch my wife too, and they'll go and like do a whole bit about like domestic violence or whatever, and then they're like, what? Bill Burr does it? It's like, no, because he's so vulnerable and sensitive about it when he does it. The contrast is what makes that funny. Like when Louis says that he hates his kids, it's funny because he doesn't really hate his kids.
Yeah.
He's somehow proven that to you subtly before he says that, and that's why it's funny. But so many people try to imitate those people and just get it completely wrong.
By not giving the empathetic side, like by just going straight for the kill?
You got to like tether yourself in the right side of it, the morally acceptable part of it, and then go venture into the morally dubious part. But you have to make that. You have to be like, no, I'm good, but you can't just do the part right up top.
Yeah, but there's like a Jesselnik or who goes out of his way. Yeah.
Right. But he's going whole hog.
Yeah.
He's like,
He's a
shooting the
cartoon.
moon,
Who?
like shooting them. Like, there's a card game where you're trying to get, I think it's hearts or something, where like hearts are bad. You don't want to have any hearts in your hand,
Okay.
unless you shoot the moon and you go all hearts,
Ah.
and then you win the game. And that's what he's doing with offensive humor. He's just like, no, 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 that's all I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be
But
argued.
yeah, he's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I love him, but it could be argued that it does it like so strongly. It's such a like an overshoot. He's cartoonish, and nobody believes. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So part of what we do, we like try to butcher jokes because we thought you'd love that.
Great,
So like, yeah, take a joke and butcher it. Specifically, like you have a bunch of like really good metaphors. I think you use metaphors really well. Of like, which is like finding a connection which we didn't know is there. So like you have that joke about marriage, like people who polygamous. I think that's the word. People who have who have two family, have like a secret family.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, and you say it's like being in prison and tunneling to a different prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to sort of come clean about that. There's a comic in Hong Kong where I did comedy for a while, whose name is Tampi Chan, very funny. And he has a joke that doesn't start like that, but he uses that metaphor. And when I realized that I was doing that, I like texted him. I was like, shit, Tampi, I'm already doing this bit where I use the prison metaphor. Can I do it on the album? And he was very nice. And he was like, yeah, go for it. But let me just do his joke to give credit where it's due. It's like, sometimes like, oh, do you ever have your wife? My wife asked me like, do you ever wish you were in a different woman? Do you ever wish you were, with a different woman? And he's like, what? Like, that'd be like a prisoner asking another prisoner, like, hey, you ever wish you were in a different prison? And it was something like that. But anyway, I just took that and applied it to the secret family thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good on you for also giving the credit. And I'm sure it happens a lot.
No, it was weighing psychically on me for a while. He knows. I mean, as long as he's okay with it, then I don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. But that's not the only one. You also have like what we mentioned before, the ghost of like it's particularly funny to me because like I have a kid, thanks. And like about like people with kids telling people without kids to like you should have a kid and stuff, and then you say it's like a ghost recommending you should kill yourself. You say you can't trust these people. They did something irreversible. Of course, they'll try to pull you their way. So that's brilliant. First of all, I think it works brilliantly with my theory too, that you find this novel connection, which is useful. But
I love it when people butcher jokes, by the way.
You do?
I mean, for one, you didn't butcher it, but but like, no, I mean, to me, it means that they like internalized it. Like if I hear somebody trying to tell another person my jokes, that's like the highest compliment. Even if they completely mess it up, actually more if they mess it up, because it means that like it's somewhere like deep in their brain that they can't quite articulate. But I think it's good. That's my favorite kind of joke, is one where you're like, I'm going to tell my friends that one.
Yeah. That's how nowadays I just send my friends.
Right. You just text it to them.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm like trying to give it your wording, but it's not. I can't. But I'm happy you're not like appalled by my delivery.
No, it's good. That one I almost started. I like gave that one up, and then a friend. Okay. I was like, I was like putting together my album, and I was like practicing it at a friend's house. Like he got some people together in his kitchen, and I was just like doing it. And I was talking to him before, and I didn't even. Oh, that's right. I was just like, oh yeah, I used to have this bit where I was like a ghost, and he was like, you gotta do that. I was like, what? No, that's not really a joke. And he was like, no, it is. Like sometimes you don't even realize it's a bit, until someone points it out, or you find yourself like repeating it to somebody, and you're like, oh, it's been a bit this whole time. I thought it was just something that I thought but no, it's a bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say something?
No, you were surprised. It's funny. Like you just thought it's a truism.
Yeah, or it wasn't. It's weird. I've been doing this for 11 years, but I still sometimes don't recognize something is a bit until someone else does.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, that's not a bit. That's just like a thing that I say. And I'm like, no, it's a bit. Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But metaphors, I love a metaphor.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think it's funny, like on both aspects. First, like what we said, like it makes you realize that like it makes you look at differently at a phenomenon you thought was like normal, and like people who recommend having kids, you thought, okay, that's reasonable. But then if it's a ghost that recommends dying, it makes you see it in a different light. And also it kind of makes you, just the situation is funny of like a ghost. You imagine a prisoner digging to another into another jail, or a ghost like my favorite part of the ghost joke is when he says it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's like a good that actually is a good formula for like when you're writing jokes or trying to like continue a joke, is like, you have two situations that you're trying to compare through a metaphor, and like, you can write down, okay, what does this type of person say? And then what if you said that, but in the voice of the second?
Yeah.
So it helps if there's like an accent or something, we're like the ghost accent, I guess. So what if a ghost said things that parents always say, but in their like ghostly voice?
Yeah.
Now I've thoroughly deconstructed it and made it not funny, but that is one aspect that actually does. I mean, most of this theorizing and
Yeah.
pontificating doesn't help with joke creation, but I think that does. It helps anyway.
Yeah, it helps. Yeah, but on like, I'm not sure any like I can just say like from a cognitive neuroscience perspective, that's what I tell people who are like, don't deconstruct jokes. There's famously you say deconstructing a joke is like operating on a frog, right? The frog dies, and yeah,
dissecting a frog.
Exactly. Like we study visual illusions, and all these like the Necker cube and stuff like that, or visual illusions. Everyone knows one, like two lines are the same length, but they look different. So explaining everything about it doesn't make the illusion go away. Like our brain is wired in a certain way, and like rational knowledge doesn't make the effects go away. So even understanding the mechanism doesn't make it not funny. So that's like the good news. Just like as a disclaimer for our audience. Yeah.
Right.
No worries.
No, I agree.
Yeah. Don't consult your doctor after. So about like that, saying it in a different voice, it also seems to us like it helps that you can imagine the thing, like bringing it down to earth, like making it something tangible. Like when you say a ghost recommending dying, that's like a funny idea. But then when you say it's so rewarding, it actually makes you imagine like parents saying that. It makes like more tangible. Does that?
Yeah. There's like a high status, low status thing. I think that's like one of the theories of humor too. Like a high status person saying low status things is funny somehow. Like I don't have a good example of that, but do you ever see Drunk History, the show?
No.
Oh, there's like a series that was on Comedy Central where they get like writers or just friends of the producer to get drunk and then describe something from history that is their like pet, the story of Napoleon, or like the story of how Einstein created his theory or whatever, and whatever's pet thing that they know a lot about, as they get progressively drunker, and then they go back and they shoot that as like narration, but with like actors in like real costumes, and they're saying the things. So you hear, like Napoleon say these things that are obviously coming out of a just horribly drunk person's mouth, but but he's saying it like so seriously. That's like the high status, low status thing.
Yeah.
So like, ghosts are something that we usually don't think of as having a sense of humor, or as like, it's funny to hear a ghost do stuff. I didn't invent that, but
No.
yeah, it's it helps to hear someone say like a normal thing in a funny voice, or vice versa. You know?
Yeah, I didn't think of
Yeah.
that way. Like there is like this aspect of humor about like trivializing something, right? Like if you're something like high up and you make it like very earthly and low level, like
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, like if you make it imaginable, that's some form of that, right? If you have like a ghost that suddenly has like an
Yeah.
inner life and cares about like how rewarding his death is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you read The Onion or watch The Onion's videos?
They have videos. I just see their posts on Instagram.
Oh yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
There's so much video. I mean, I haven't really paid attention to it in a while, but I grew up like reading the Onion compilation books and watching their YouTube channel. Which is just like standard, like 24-hour news, but like just talking about ridiculous things. And I think the Onion is a great example of like talking about silly things in a very serious tone.
Yeah.
Is what's funny. Like nothing is more serious than the news, or at least it used to be. The guy behind a desk and blah 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 blah. I mean, that's why like Anchorman is funny, and like Bruce Almighty, that scene and all that stuff. Because it's funny to hear somebody very serious say something completely ridiculous. I can't remember, but what was I going to say? I can't remember the specific example I was going to do, but yeah, that was great. I mean, when the Onion found that, like, oh, like we'll do jokes, but in news format. That's just such like a productive formula.
And you think it would it work the other way around if you had like a clown talking about like nuclear threats, and it would work still, right?
Yeah. I'd have to think of a counter example, but there's definitely. I'm sure somebody has done something like that. It's probably more funny to have the serious thing and funny content than the other way around. But yeah, both work.
Yeah, that's why you probably have like impersonations of like famous, strong, serious people slipping on bananas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or why like deadpan is such a popular comedy style.
You think that's a version of it? Like deadpan is.
Yeah. Like I mean, I guess like Anthony Jeselnik, he's very serious.
Yeah.
But he's just what he's saying is so ridiculous that it can't possibly be true. That's an extreme example, but like Stephen Wright is the classic deadpan guy.
Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe it works the other way with like comedians who are really loud and expressive talking about serious things. Yeah, I guess I have less examples of that, but contrast is somehow important.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sorry, you go ahead.
No. So that's amazing. Yeah. The trivializing and so did you have like alternative? Did you like play with endings for that ghost joke? Did you have like alternative puns which you?
Oh no,
not puns.
I'm not big on like dragging out the act out. Like once I have a funny act out, I'll like hit it like 2 times, then I'm like done, on to the next one. I guess I'm just like pathologically afraid of dragging it on too far and letting the laughter die out. But I mean, what I would do if I were actually better at my job is turn that into like a big bit and add a bunch of other stuff that parents say, but said in a ghost way. No, I don't think I ever had anything.
I think that would be the easier thing to do, wouldn't it? I think like having many short jokes.
You would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, many comics do find that the easier thing to do, but I don't know. I just can't. I just think of something funny and then I say the funny part and then I'm like, yeah, you guys could get it right. All right. Next.
Yeah. And then if you're not milking it, that's way more impressive, I think, to fill an hour like that.
Maybe. Well, yeah, to fill an hour. Yeah, it is harder to do that kind of stuff. That's why it's taken me so long to think of another. I'll probably record like another one in the spring. I think I'm like most of the way there. But it takes. I mean, the comics, they come out with a new special every year. I have no idea how they do that.
Yeah, all of them. I think
crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all doing it now.
Really? Yeah, I heard.
I mean, it seems like the norm.
Really? I heard you
Yeah.
say you have a new one coming up. I heard you like on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'll be probably April or May before I record it, and then I don't know when it'll be out. Hopefully before the end of 2025.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll have been 3 years, I think, since the last one was recorded. 2.5. But anyway, that's good for me. If I can do a new special every 2.5 years, I think I'll be set. Unless, yeah. I mean, I would love to, like, there are comics that say if you can go to like a town every year with new material, you'll have an audience for life. And I think that would be the dream. But I'm like, how do you get a new hour every year for the same group of people? It seems impossible. But yeah, maybe one day.
It does. But yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, they know much better than I. To me, it sounds like every 2 years is great. But yeah, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Awesome. I think, we should finish soon. I just wanted to ask you about about making it real, about like that what we discussed before about like making it tangible. There's also an aspect of like, so I'll give like another example, like a joke I loved about like Disney dads. Also, I related very much. Where you say like, well, that's Sharia law. For you say like, then you suddenly place Aladdin in Saudi Arabia, and or or like humanizing TikTok, saying that you say he checks if you're gay, and then I'll be back in a month. Sorry about that. Yeah. So somehow like in those jokes too, like bringing it, making it imaginable, like putting Aladdin like in a context, or making TikTok into this independent agent, makes it,
Yeah, personification is funny.
Yeah, personification is a word. Yeah, it's also because
the Disney dad thing. I don't know if is that making it more realistic, or it's just like expressing something that parents had thought watching those movies that they haven't quite articulated.
I think I wouldn't think. Yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah, I think it's like well, I mean, for me, I've gotten a lot of mileage out of like the tension of like wanting my daughter to grow up into a strong, independent woman, but not yet. Like, please be weak and submissive for as long as possible while you're living here, and then immediately when you leave, then you be. But obviously that's impossible, so that's why it's funny. Or like the tension between like, I mean, like feminism in general. Like in theory, I believe that all women are equals, but not you. You're not. You are female, but not, which I think all dads feel like that, or all girl dads, at least. But that's right. That reminds me of something I was going to bring up earlier. When we were talking about like theories of humor. I don't know which one this falls into, but do you know Louis' thing about of course, but maybe?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty close to a theory of humor that he almost like he was almost too on the nose and like popularizing that. It was like, oh, well, he's almost giving away the game there. 'Cause it's like almost all jokes are like that, where it's like yes, of course, we all think this and we're all very high-minded about this, but but maybe. I think that's one of my all-time favorite Louis bits. But it also describes a lot of jokes. Like, yeah, of course, I want my daughter to follow her dreams and whatever, but maybe not until she leaves the house.
Yeah, that sounds a bit like Freudian, of like we know what we should believe, we know what we want rationally, but there's this id part behind the scenes that actually we want this and that, and like we have these bad thoughts. And,
exactly. Yeah, I also wanted to say, or I mean, not wanted to. I wanted to, like, I was like thinking this for a while. I don't know if this is true, but like, part of me thinks that all comedy is conservative in a way, like sociopolitically, because liberal things are the things that we all want universal health care. We want the poor to be taken care of. We want, no war, whatever. Yeah, of course. But also, are secretly conservative in many ways in our heads, and that's funny. So I started to think that for a while. But I also think it might work the other way too, with like conservative. If you're playing to a conservative audience, maybe it's reversed. Like yes, we all love Jesus. We all hate gays, or I don't know, not that, but or so we all want small government, or we all love guns. But what if the liberal people are right about some stuff?
Yeah, maybe it's not such a great idea to have guns in school.
Yeah, maybe being gay is awesome, or something like that.
Welcome. We all hate gays, but.
yeah.
It's a bad premise.
Right. I think some stuff is like that. Again, I wish I had an example, but of course, but maybe it's a very useful comedy framework.
I never thought of it like as a meta theory of humor before. I just thought of it as a bit. But
No, it's I'm almost mad at him for like making that so. Now it's like a thing that everyone knows. Like, oh yeah, of course, but maybe. Like if you look hard enough, you can. My entire like all my jokes fit into that. I think. Wow. I don't ever want someone to be like, "Hey, are you just doing of course, but maybe?" Like shit, you got me. Damn it.
Nah, I don't think it's that.
Nah. Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah. Interesting. Amazing, Gus. Thanks very much. We here. It's almost nighttime. It's almost.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's not that bad. It's almost 5. But it's a public institution, so everything shuts down.
Right. Yeah.
As a closure, we always ask comedians guests to recommend us stuff that they really love and think maybe isn't very famous. Maybe people don't know about. Do you have like comedic bits you really like and do you think they deserve greater audiences?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's so much in comedy that is overrated that it's sometimes hard to think of something that is truly underrated. But I love Sheng Wang, the comedian. Do you know him?
I think I know him through you.
Oh, really?
You speaking about him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He opened for Ali Wong for a long time. Maybe still does. I don't know. But he's got a special called Sweet and Juicy on Netflix. Okay. I think it's really good. And his stuff on YouTube in general is so good. I talked to comics who are like, Sheng Wang? And I'm like, yeah, Sheng Wang. To me, he's like the true like successor of like Seinfeld observational humor, wow. Like Mitch Hedberg, that kind of stuff. So him... you asked about like, I think you said an email favorite bit or like a bit that somebody should know about.
Yeah.
That, the one that I thought of was, do you know Pete Lee?
Pete Lee.
No. He's been on the Tonight Show a bunch. But he's just got this really quick bit. I don't know if you can even call it a bit, but, where he just says, yeah, but you know me, I hate confrontation, unless you guys like it. And then I love it. It's like so short. But so I don't want to say deep, but it's like, yeah, there's more to it than just the joke itself. That's how I feel personally. Like I do hate confrontation unless you want some to have an argument, and then like, yeah, well, sure, you're wrong.
If it's consensual, yeah.
So that's really good. I mean everything that Louis does. I guess there's like, the joke that like comes into my head every time that I try to think of a joke, like, which doesn't work. You can't just like be like, all right, I'm going to come up with something funny now. But, in my head when I'm like, I got to get more material. I mean, I could do Louis bits all day, but there's one that I think is kind of instructive, which is like the one where he's talking about how much more interested in sex men are than women, or like how focused they are when they're having sex. When he's like, yeah, I mean, I'm so like, I could be having sex with a woman and she could show me a photograph of her cutting off my mother's head. And I would be like, I don't like that very much. As soon as we're done, we're going to have to talk about that. But I mean, I think the thing that's so, I don't want to say genius, but that's so like subtly good about that is that and a more amateur comedian would say, do the setup the same way. They would say like, yeah, I could be having sex with a woman, show me a picture of cutting off my mother's head, and I'd be like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't care. But that's not as funny as being slightly concerned.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I like that very like I don't, because it's like truer, I guess.
Yeah, it's closer.
Like you would be concerned.
Yeah.
But that I could do Louis bits all day. But why? Do you have a favorite? Do you share your own?
Yeah, I do. I have tons of favorite. My favorite comedian is Norm Macdonald, and I was reminded of like 3 segments. Like now, while you were talking, he does.
Yeah, Norm's great.
Yeah, and he has one about Hitler as well. About like everybody says they want to go back in a time machine and kill Hitler, but he'd be afraid to be like locked in the gaze and influence. And next thing you know, I'm marching with him. He was like,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and he had a back and forth with Adam Sandberg, and they both did that. And then they said, of course, if you go back, you should kill Hitler. I want to say to the audience, if I did, I would kill Hitler. It's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. Yeah, that's really funny. Wait, do you have a favorite Jewish joke?
Favorite Jewish joke?
I saw the clip with you and Modi where you were talking. Didn't you talk about it? Like favorite Jewish joke? I forget what his was. Am I thinking of a different podcast?
No. I was maybe me with Modi. I'm not sure we did the favorite Jewish. We did like recommendations, and he recommended what's his name? He was mad at me for not knowing him. It's like a very famous Jewish comedian. Jackie Mason. And I went and I saw it later. Yeah, I do know him. But not as well as I should have. I saw the special, really funny. I'm not sure what I recommended there. Here for this episode, I thought of recommending like a Rodney Dangerfield joke, just because we talked about self-deprecation, like a Rodney Dangerfield bit. So I would like we put this in the links of the episode. But I did hear like a really good. It's not a Jewish joke per se, but it's a Holocaust joke, and they are related. That Ricky Gervais did recently. He said like a Holocaust survivor goes to heaven, and he tells. You know that one?
Sorry, you can do it for the listeners.
Okay.
I love that one too.
Yeah, it's great. He tells God the joke, and God goes, not that funny. And he says, well, you should have been there.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
And the thing about that clip where he does it on comedians in cars, Jerry laughs too early.
Really?
You can see, if you watch the clip, Jerry laughs at the part where God says, I don't really get it. I think it's just because Jerry is like distracted and he thinks that he's supposed to laugh there. And then he says the punchline and then he goes, oh, right. He's like caught in this like, oh no, I laughed too early, but I don't want to admit it. But yeah, that one is so good.
Yeah.
I was going to say, have you heard the one about like 2 Jews are walking down the street and they pass a church, and outside it says a sign says convert to Christianity and get $200, and they're like, oh, well, what do you think, is that real? Like, and one guy says, I don't know, I'll go check it out. And then so he goes in and he comes out of the church a few minutes later, and the other Jew is like so did you get the money? And he says, is that all you people think about? I don't know why I think that one's funny.
That's great.
I am Jewish, by the way. It's okay for me to do that. I don't know if we established that at the beginning.
Yeah, we haven't, but yeah, that's reassuring.
Anyway, my mom's Jewish.
So
I don't do Jewish jokes in my act.
You don't, yeah,
but only because I don't have any. I would if I did.
Yeah, it's not a Jewish name either, Tate. Is it?
No, my dad's.
It's your dad.
Just some white guy.
But awesome. Now you have permission of doing it all.
Yeah.
Just
totally.
Not all of them, but 2.
Yeah, exactly.
I was reminded. Let's end on your joke. your delivery is better. Never mind.
Whatever.
Yeah, if I
It's
remember.
your show.
Yeah, no, yours is better. I just remember. I forgot the joke. Something about. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'll do it. So there was a guy. I just heard this a couple of days ago. A guy walks into a priest and he says, "Father, I'm 80 years old. I'm a widow, and last week I was on a flight and two flight attendants hit on me, and we went to their hotel and we had sex. I had sex with both of them." All night. And he says, wow, when was the last time you've been to confession? And he said, never, I'm Jewish. I said, oh, so why are you telling me? I'm telling everyone.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Not a Jewish
That's a good
joke,
one.
per se. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. Thank you, Gus. Thanks very, very much.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Thanks, Amir.
Yeah. Thanks very much for being here. Our first cross-Atlantic interviewee, who we hope will remember us when he's huge and we're too late to buy tickets.
Yeah, well, likewise. I mean, remember me when you're the president of Tel Aviv University or whatever you're aspiring to be.
The
I
world.
don't know what the when you drop your special, your seminal paper and your best-selling book. There we go. It'll be in the acknowledgements.
Yeah, you will. Anyway, first guy to make it huge. You have already made it, but like first person to make it huge pulls up the other.
Sweet. Sounds like a deal.
Good deal on my side. Other comedians on campus, I'm Amir Tal, and with me are Shai Fisher. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gus.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was really fun.
It was.
תל אביב 360, ערוץ הפודקאסטים של אוניברסיטת תל אביב.
תודה רבה שהייתם איתנו בקומיקאים בקמפוס. בתיאור למטה יש לינק לפלייליסט גם ביוטיוב, גם בספוטיפיי של כל הפרקים. בואו תבדקו עוד פרקים.